Hey, Mikey.
Hey, dear Deaky.
Okay, I think we're okay with the headphones now, man.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's
Sorry
do
for the
this.
misfire.
Boom.
What did I say we were gonna do? We're gonna start with John T. Snow, and go to
Yep,
you, and then me,
yep,
and then Holland and Meat.
yep.
So I have 5 pieces of paper here that I am balancing, and here we go. So, Nigel Tufnel Top 10 live albums of all time, starting with John T. Snow from Too Loud, Too Old Music. And he says he's only picked albums that are in his collection. I think most of us have done that. So
Yep.
he knows these might not be truly the top albums, but they are his top albums. Oh, we got Jen watching. Hey, sweetie poop. Um, and his number 11 is a new release,
Ooh.
relative, new release, but a vintage concert. Def Leppard, the early years, when the walls come tumbling down, live at the new theater, Oxford, 1980. So that would have been first album tour.
Yep.
Uh, I love that he picked something that literally came out like 3 months ago. No, I don't think any of us have done that, but this is a new
No.
release of an old show that is crazy good. Steve Clark and Pete Willis are a dynamic duo, and the band sounds so hungry and raw.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, that is a great pick. I actually thought of that too. It's tough to narrow it down to 11. So, but kudos to the Snowman. He went good on that one.
Yeah.
Ding ding.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're up, man.
Okay, so my number 11 is Made in Japan. Now, what I did was I switched it up a bit from the top, I think it was a top 10 list I did on favorite albums last year. Because, I mean, it's like anything. You post your top favorite, whatever, it could change by 4 o'clock that day. You say, oh,
Yeah.
you know what? I forgot about this and I forgot about that. And plus, I wanted to alter my list a bit because now that we're doing this live, I kind of want to give some background on why I went with some of these picks, whereas before I was just throwing out live album after live album after live album. So I went with Made in Japan because in the whole chronicle of Iron Maiden history, that was the second ever Iron Maiden album I owned after I bought Killers in 81, the summer of 81. So out comes Made in Japan a few months later, and I never heard Running Free or Remember Tomorrow. So those songs just blew me away. And what really blew me away was I never bought the Iron Maiden debut until after Number of the Beast came out. Because then I bought the Iron Maiden debut and went, wow, these tempos are ever different. Because they were just,
Yeah.
boom, that Running Free, they're just like, they're playing live, man. So it was like, it's kind of neat to discover when we go through my list, you're going to be amazed at how many of the records, live albums, were actually the first albums I owned by these artists.
I can say, well, I won't get into it. I will say that I love your pick, and we have some comments. John T. Snow says regarding the Def Leppard being a new release, that's why it's number 11. And Eric Litwiller says that Made in Japan was the very first Maiden album he ever had. And
Mm-hmm.
Remember Tomorrow is so good on that. So good has 6 O's. Just
That's
changing my
hilarious.
lights. There we go. Okay, that's better. Um, I'm next. I also picked a relatively newer release. I wanted to do that, and I picked Flying Colors live in Europe. I
Nice.
love that album. It has been a companion for me on many cottage trips. I love that all five guys kind of get a spotlight moment, and Mike Portnoy sings a song on it. They do a Dream Theater tune. They do a Dixie Dregs tune. I love that first Flying Colors studio album, and their second album just didn't connect.
Yeah, it
So for
happens,
me,
man.
Flying Colors is all about the first album and the double live in Europe, and that's my
Mm-hmm.
number 11.
Boom. Now that's Flying Colors. Is that Steve
Mike
Morse in that
Portnoy,
band?
Steve
Right?
Morse, Neil Morse, um, uh, the the bassist from Dixie Dregs, or the bassist from the Steve Morse band, I should say. His name's eluding me all of a sudden.
Is
And
that
Casey
Dave LaRue?
McPherson on lead vocal. What's that?
Is that Dave LaRue?
Dave LaRue. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Dave
My brother
LaRue on
used to
bass.
listen. My brother listened to the Steve Morse band quite a bit, so I just kind of threw that one out there, man. Got lucky.
So we are speaking Meat's language right now. Like that's his bread and butter. That's his
Is
bread
it?
and
Yeah.
butter.
It's cool, man.
So after me comes Holin, and he's got a good one here. Peter Gabriel plays live.
Wow,
I
interesting.
believe, I believe, I might be wrong here as we go, but I think that's Peter Gabriel's only appearance on these lists,
Hmm.
which is surprising.
Yeah, well, that's kind of that one's outside the box, so to speak. So good on
It
him.
is, but I totally get it. And
Yeah.
lastly, we had Mr. Meat. He's picked one out of the box too, but you're gonna love it. Saga in Transit.
Nice,
And
nice.
I'm hoping that he'll pop up with a comment or two about why he picked Saga in Transit.
Synth
But
driven,
sorry,
synth driven.
synth driven. I
Yeah.
remember my buddy Trevor T. Rev. Hey, Harrison Kopp, Harrison Kopp, Harrison Kopp, whose idea this was. It was his idea that we do this tonight.
Attaboy.
So thank you, Harrison. Um, Saga in Transit. I will read Meat's comments whenever they pop up. But let's
Sure.
go back to John T. Snow for number
All
10.
right. Okay.
This is a good one. Humble Pie performance
Ooh.
rocking the Fillmore. You can have Peter Frampton's Frampton Comes Alive. I'll take Peter with his sorry lot and with this sorry lot any day. They found a magic that their albums couldn't show, and it is simply wonderful. Humble Pie, rocking the Fillmore,
Humble
John T.
pie.
Snow.
Nice, nice.
And
Attaboy,
Meat
John
says
T.
regarding Saga, just a great album.
Yeah. Well, hey,
Yep,
gotta say, yeah.
good enough.
Hey, he's Uncle Meat, man, for a reason.
Yeah. I just
So
realized I need a bottle opener for my Sicilian lemonade, so I might have to deke out, so to speak, in a minute. But I'll finish my
no,
coffee first.
no pun.
Uh,
So I'm up now.
you are up.
Okay. So this I'm going with the live album by Nazareth, Snaz. That was recorded in 1981,
Vancouver.
and believe it or not, that is, other than Greatest Hits, that is the only other Nazareth album I own. And Snaz, I was really psyched to get it on vinyl about a year ago because, yeah, it's such a great record. I mean, Dan McCafferty, I mean, I never heard a vocalist like that before. And when my buddy Dave McCullough first bought it, and I heard him, and when he
Muck.
goes, "Hey, Vancouver," and I was like, "What?" Like, the hell? And then they went into Razmanaz, and man, I was sold on it. So it was such a good record, man. It's so good. Like, and plus it's got that CanCon to it, eh? So it adds a little more. Because how many
I didn't know.
national
Yeah.
bands did live albums in Canada, right? So
John T. Snow says he doesn't have that Nazareth album, but he does want it. Harrison Kopp says that he didn't participate this time because he thought there were enough lists already. He's probably right, but he'll go for round two. And I will say hi to old high school buddy Michael Thompson and old co-worker at the record store, Jade Squire, the
nice.
Squire of Gothos. Um,
Anybody with the last name
I've lost
Squire is
track.
good in my book.
So, sorry?
I
Anybody with
said
the name
any
Squire?
in my is all right in my book, man.
She's awesome. I guess I'm next.
Yep.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love this one. Sincerely, this is goes back to high school. It was a fantastic live album. First album I ever bought from this band, and those are special. Triumph,
Ooh,
Stages.
nice, nice. I was kind of thinking you might put that in there because I remember we were talking about it before, and well, you were showing it off on one of your previous streams with the gatefold and everything.
Favorite
So
vinyls, yeah,
yeah,
favorite
there you
vinyls.
go.
And there's a couple
Boom.
tracks on there that aren't on the CD. Blah blah blah.
And that
And
that yeah, that album is just like a sleeper album. Like it came out, that was '85 as well, right?
yes, it was. And
Yeah,
it
and you
also,
kind of
there's a connection there with Max Webster. Gary McCracken, I believe, played drums when Gilmour broke his arm.
that's right, that's right. Yeah,
Eric Litwiller likes the CanCon, and Jade Squire says, "Hey,
yeah. Like I
Jade, this is
said,
my buddy Deke. He's from Thunder Bay."
anybody with the last name Squire in my is all right in my book, man. You related to
Absolutely.
Billy?
She spells it
That's why.
differently.
Oh,
She spells
okay.
it differently.
Well, still, that's all right.
Holen. This is the very first appearance of Rush on these lists. Holen's got Exit Stage Left as his number
Nice.
10, and I don't believe that needs any discussion. Um,
Nope.
Exit Stage Left was their second live album,
Mhm.
and it's also my favorite Rush live album too. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm good with Holen. And the Meat Man, you're gonna like this one, or Scott would for sure.
Mhm.
UFO, Strangers in the Night.
Yeah, that's a great pick. I mean, I had to bump out that one because I originally had it on my blog site as in my top 10, but I'll explain once we get to the pick why I bumped it out. But yeah,
Gotcha.
you can't go wrong with that one, none whatsoever. Good pick, Meat.
We will be back for the next round with John T. Snow after I get a bottle opener.
Attaboy.
Bottle opener. Bottle opener. And Jade says, right on. I think that was in regards to you saying anybody with the last name of Squire is okay in your books.
That's right.
Where the shit did I put down the lists? Oh, they're there. Okay, number nine. Number nine with John T. Snow is Need to Breathe, live from the woods at Fontanelle. This one won't be on any of your lists, and that is okay. One of my favorite bands were able to take their songs to a different level when they were able to open them up and let them breathe live. Magical.
Yeah, well, good on John. I mean, he's going like right left field with some of these picks,
Yeah,
and that's what makes it
really
cool
fresh.
because, yeah, because that's what makes it fun is that we might have some of the same picks, but in different rankings. And like John so far, he's pulled out three now that are good on you,
I'm going to
pal.
read some comments here. John T. Snow says like he couldn't do the UFO one as he as ashamed he doesn't have it on vinyl yet.
Ah, fair enough.
UFO studio albums are great, but that live album is the perfect time capsule of that lineup, says Eric Litwiller.
True that.
Okay, on to you with your number nine.
My number nine will be from Germany, and that's Worldwide Live by the Z Scorpions. I mean,
There's like four
1985.
lists.
1985, double live,
Oh,
double gatefold,
yeah.
pictures, blah blah blah, Scorpions. I mean that there's another band I only had at that time, Love It for Sting and Blackout. So a lot of that stuff like Coast to Coast, Another Piece of Meat,
Another piece of Eric Litwiller.
yeah, like all those tunes I had never heard until I got that record, and it kind of made me want to get Animal Magnetism and just check out what there was going on before Blackout because Blackout was my entry point with them. So
Yeah, a lot of
yeah,
people.
and Matthias Jabs. I mean, what can you say about that guy's playing, man? Because I always say he's one of the most underrated six stringers to go through the '80s.
Well,
I
he
mean,
replaced Uli John Roth and
and
Michael
Schenker,
Schenker,
yeah,
among others, you know.
and he's really not brought up in the topic of discussion, which is really bizarro.
Same with
But
guys like Dave Murray and Adrian Smith, and Yannick Gers for that matter.
yeah, well, Gers, he's off to the right doing his aerobic workout, but when I can tell you, man, like when I've seen him live and they all of a sudden punch up his guitar into the solos, like Gers is bang on. He plays with that hippie liveness in his
Yeah.
playing, whereas Dave
They're
is
more
and
schooled.
they're technical, and
Yeah,
then you have
yeah,
that wild guy on the other side, and it works. Like I know
yeah.
he took over one of the solos in one of the Maiden tunes when I last seen him.
Hallow. He now plays one of the
Yeah,
solos in
it
Hallow
was
that used to
how,
be Adrian's because they wanted to give everybody equal
and he
solo time.
just he just goes like bonkers, right?
Yeah.
Nothing whatsoever like Adrian, but when you think about it, it's like, yeah, it works, So
Meat says that Worldwide Live rocks.
yes, it does.
Um, my number nine. I wanted to do something a little bit out of the box, but totally representative of me.
Hmm.
Alice in Chains Unplugged.
Ooh,
I
Going
love that
acoustic.
record. I loved it when it came out. Um, it's a good cottage album. I'll be honest with you.
Hmm.
I bought it specifically the weekend before it came out to bring it to the cottage and give it a good run up there in the woods. And yeah, that album gets me, man. And I believe it's essentially the last album with Lane Staley.
Good point. Yeah, I never really bought anything past the Dirt album.
Well,
I
the one
bought.
that's called the Dog album is a very very harsh album.
My brother loves that one because he was into that right in that era of when what was the album that Man in the Box came out on? What was
Facelift.
Facelift? And he went right through. And I remember he bought that album with the Dog, and I heard it, and I was like, "Oh man, I think I might go back to my one of my Kiss records now. Thanks."
It's
But
all
that's
about balance.
yeah, that's right.
Holland for his number nine. We have the very first appearance of Ted Nugent on the list with Double Live Gonzo,
Oof,
and
that
I
huge.
will in because he can't tell the story. Um, I will tell a story, which is I love that album too, and I probably never would have heard Double Live Gonzo
Mm,
if it wasn't for the fact that it showed up at my store on on a counter mysteriously. It was there. It was sitting there on a counter. It's like, where'd that come from? It's not our stock. It's not ours. It must be some customer must have left it here.
right, right.
So I left it sit for a few days, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm taking it.
Nice.
And it's fucking awesome. Ted Nugent trashes this album whenever he talks about it, but he's wrong.
Yeah, no, he is. Well, it's probably due to the fact that he never sang Stranglehold. Did you ever read his book that Popoff did on him?
No, I haven't.
He says that when they played, or they talked to Derek St. Holmes, and for the longest time when the Nugent band was starting out, Stranglehold was the big single off the debut Nugent record.
Yeah.
Everybody thought Derek St. Holmes was Nugent. Now imagine how
Oh,
that went over.
yeah,
Yeah, so he
yeah.
got fired, and that's why
That's why he got
Meatloaf,
fired.
and that then he got rehired because they had Meatloaf do the vocals on Free for All,
Yeah.
and then they brought St. Holmes back and started that crazy relation. It's a crazy read, man. Nugent's just off the rails, man.
And that's Martin Popoff's book.
Yeah,
Cool.
I got a
Okay.
copy of it. I'll get it to you.
Cool. Cool. Um, Meat Man. Marillion. The thieving magpie, La Gazaladra. And I'm not going to say anything about this because it might show up later. So I'll save it
Yeah,
for when it might show up later.
sounds good.
We're on to number 8 with John T. Snow.
Hmm.
Second appearance of the Fillmore with the Allman Brothers Band of Fillmore East.
Whoa, John D.
Being
Snow,
from
you're
the
killing
South,
me.
he would be banished for not having this in his collection.
Yeah, I guess.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that. Uh, he enjoys it when they let loose and just play and take the songs in directions you never knew they could go. Just sit back and enjoy, says John. Fantastic.
he knows. He's from
Yeah,
there. You
yeah,
know,
he would know.
he's probably got a little almond in him.
Yeah, he might. He might. I wouldn't be surprised. He's got a couple guitars in his collection. And you could probably wail on him.
So that's four pretty cool picks by Mr. Snow that I wasn't
Yeah,
expecting. So
and
good on you, pal.
really, none of them are ones that were going to show up on my list. So
No, no,
that
that's
that's
like
that's cool.
that's what makes it very cool. You're right, man.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 8 is Unleashed in the East. So, I mean, the backstory to that pick is simple. Everybody knows my very first concert was Kiss in Duluth. Judas
Duluth.
Priest, Duluth. Judas Priest was supposed to open. They canceled. John Cougar came in and got destroyed on stage. But anyways, a few months later, I was in a local record store here in Thunder Bay, and I seen Unleashed in the East, and I thought, man, these were the guys that were supposed to open for Kiss. And I mean, that album cover grabs you. I mean, isn't it
Yeah.
hilarious when you look at it? Les
Yeah.
Binks was already gone, and they just pumped up the smoke machine behind the drums to make it look like they had a drummer on the front
Yeah.
and back cover. Yet there's no
Yeah.
guy sitting in the picture. Oh, it's the best. And then those two guys, Tipton and Downing, I never heard guitar duels like that ever. I mean, I was like 13, and you know, coming from listening to Kiss and Cheap Trick, and all of a sudden there's Rob Halford on side. What? like,
Yeah.
like a whole different level of metal. And yeah, that's what can you say about that one? Yeah, it's unleashed in the studio, whatever they say. I don't give a
Yeah.
shit, man. That's that's awesome.
I'm gonna get this one out because I want to show it. So give me 1 second here.
Sure, man. Guess we should play the Jeopardy theme here, or some kind of music, mood music. You're right, Harrison. It is a very wickedly cool cover. Had me fooled for years because I thought actually Les Binks was just getting smoked out by the machine, but he wasn't even in the band.
San Quentin.
Ah,
Now this is the version I recommend, which is the 3-disc edition from Sony Legacy. But of course, the original album is fine too. This is a fantastic live album, and I'll tell you, my favorite moment on this is the song San Quentin, which is a song that he specifically wrote for this show.
mm-hmm.
And the opening line is like, San Quentin, I hate every inch of you. And it's about what hell it must be to live in that place.
Right.
And the prisoners loved it so much that Cash played it a second time immediately afterwards. And then he says, hey, if any of the guards are still talking to me, can I get a glass of water?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So that's your pick?
Yeah, that's my number 8 we are at.
Nice.
That's my number 8. Holin's number 8, Live After Death, 1985.
There we go.
And again, I'm not going to say anything about it because it might show up again later.
Mm-hmm.
Meat's number 8 is one that I considered for my list, and it's Live Magnetic Air, Max Webster, CanCon.
More CanCon.
Yep.
Yep. That's actually a pretty cool album.
Yeah, it is actually. Like I said, I considered it. The only reason I couldn't really pick it is because it's not as intimately familiar with me as the other albums that are on my list. And Harrison Kopp says Unleashed in the East cover is wickedly cool.
Yeah, I commented on that when you went to get your Johnny Cash box set.
We're back to John T. Snow.
Nice.
Let there be rock! AC/DC.
Nice.
And he's got a very simple comment. Bon Scott live, what else do you need to say?
True that.
I almost put AC/DC on my list too. So, big ups to John T.
Nice.
And we're back at you.
Kiss Alive 2. Very first Kiss album I bought in Duluth when I was when I was 11, and it was like even now, I mean, look at the gatefold to that. Look at the booklet that came with it, the tattoos. I mean, it was all about the packaging and marketing, and right, that album just grabbed me, and I was in the Kiss Army after that point. I mean, and same thing. I never heard any of those studio versions until after I'd listened to the live too, and then I finally got like Rock and Roll Over, and I'm like, something wrong with my stereo? Because why is Calling Dr. Love so slow? You know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, and but Simmons, I mean, that cover shot of him with the pouty lip and his all that shit blood coming out of him and stuff. I mean, that just blew me away. I thought, like, these guys are like nuts, but hey.
I have to pause you for a second because there's a discussion going on. Meat's questioning the AC/DC album, saying, "Don't you mean if you want blood?" John T. Snow is saying, "No, I mean Let There Be Rock," which is, if you remember, they did that 2-disc edition.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the vintage AC/DC, Eric. It's the one came out around 1998-ish. Okay, sorry. Go ahead with your Live 2 again. Talk about a Live 2.
No, it was just you know, it was just one of, you know, those impact albums. Now this is actually Kiss Alive 2 I put in here, and that's what I flipped out, UFO Strangers in the Night.
Okay.
Because I had to kind of tie it in with my point of discovery with live albums, and it was Kiss Alive 2. I mean, I didn't know any.
Still confused. Eric, there was a live. Okay, no, he's good. Never mind. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Okay, we're good.
You know, and that was just the thing. I mean, I thought, who are these guys? They do 3 sides live and then a 4th side of studio tracks.
Yeah.
What? Like,
I
so.
was rereading my review of Kiss Alive 2,
Mhm.
and Eric did not like the studio side.
Okay.
But I personally, I think it's kind of a highlight of the early Kiss catalog. They were kind of, they were evolving maybe a little bit more heavy, and it was a post Love Gun era, but before they added the disco beats.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It was,
I like that studio side. Plus, Bob Kulick smokes on the 4 songs or 3 songs, however many songs he plays on. Bob Kulick smokes.
and who knew? I sure
Paul
didn't. I thought it
Stanley
was
and Gene
Ace.
Simmons knew.
Well, they knew, and they said, "Yeah, we're gonna fool everybody,"
Yeah.
and they
Well, the
did.
story goes that they said to Bob, play like Ace.
Yeah,
And, he would do his best. And they're like, no, no, no. Ace wouldn't have played that.
yeah.
So, Bob felt very constrained in the studio.
Well, I
But,
guess so.
it worked out.
Yeah.
He wasn't a
Kudos.
member. Yes, he really didn't really
No,
have much grounds to complain.
no, but kudos to him. He
Yeah.
he pulled it off and fooled everybody.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We're on number 8. No, we're not on number 8. We're on
We're on
number 7.
7. Yeah.
7. Okay. I knew the Meat Man was going to pick some Ozzy somewhere on his list, but I feel strongly about the Randy Rhoads tribute. That was my first. It wasn't my first Ozzy, but it was the first Ozzy I ever really listened to. I had Bark at the Moon, but I really never gave it a spin too much. It was a little too dark for me at that age.
Okay.
Then I got the tribute album for my birthday when I was 15,
Mhm.
and I played it all summer. So Randy Rhoads tribute, my number 7. Harrison Kopp says The Sweet did 3 sides live and 1 side studio in 1986.
There you go.
Hey, Vu! Vu Tran is watching my pharmacist. And don't worry, I'm taking my vitamins. Okay, that was me with my number 7. Next is Holland with the second appearance of Unleashed into East.
Nice.
It's a freaking great live album. I don't care if it's partly in the studio or not, because when I first
No.
listened to it, I certainly could not tell. John T. Snow says, you are right. It was If You Want Blood. Oh, okay. So all this time, I'm saying, no, they did a Let There Be Rock 2 CD set. John T. Snow actually meant If You Want Blood this whole time. And Eric Litwiller just threw out Genesis 3 sides live.
Well, a
Which
lot
I
of
guess
bands, did that. I mean, even ZZ Top, right? They had
Fandango, I think it was.
Yeah, they had one side live, the other side studio. I remember
And
T-Bone
Fandango is
had,
where Gene Simmons says that he got the idea to do a live 2 that way.
yeah, I remember T-Bone had that. That was the first time I heard that, and he got it on 8-track. That's how old we are.
Oh, 8-track.
Yeah, shit.
Meat's number 7 is the one that I was just mentioning. So we both put Ozzy at the exact same slot.
Wow,
But his
nice.
pick, and we had this discussion a couple weeks ago that he really loves this album. Speak of the Devil, which is the one that was entirely the Black Sabbath songs.
Yeah,
It was done, it was some kind of contractual obligation, basically.
yeah.
And it was done with Brad Gillis, I believe, on guitar, because Randy had already passed.
Yeah, Brad Gillis and Rudy Sarzo. I just finished reading Sarzo's book Off the Rails, and he basically talks about that whole era, basically from 80 to 82, and then when he told Ozzy he had enough. They basically, 3 of those songs on that record, Sarzo says, well, I know one of them was Black Sabbath, the song Black Sabbath, and 2 others, I can't remember. They did the old sound check and then pumped the audience over in the studio because they weren't familiar with some of those tunes and they were,
Yeah, they
on a
basically
deadline.
played them once.
Yeah. So
Eric Litwiller says about this album that it has the best in-between song stage banter ever.
yeah, it
And
does.
Gillis smokes on that album. I think about that line where it's like, "Oh, let's hear it for the old Fillmore East, man. Get a
Yeah.
few groupies, huh?
Yeah. Or keep on smoking it.
You keep on smoking it."
It's like, what the hell?
So with Meat, we are back to John T. Snow. We're at to number 6.
Okay.
And it's Ted Nugent's second appearance on the list.
Ooh.
Now he's got Double Live Gonzo.
Nice.
One of many albums that he owes to his older brothers. as they had this and heard it a lot. Ted's guitar playing was so wild and crazy, and the song so dirty. What little boy wouldn't like this?
Yeah, good point. Or
Do you have
good
anything
old.
else to say about Double Live Gonzo from your pop-off readings?
Uh, yeah, you know what? I don't know. I think he didn't really say too much about it. That band was pretty fragmented. I mean, internally. I mean, those guys. It was like basically the three of them and the Ted Nugent show. Yet it was kind of billed as the Ted Nugent band, kind
Yeah.
of. But they never felt appreciated. They never felt, of course, the pay, yada yada. It started a lot of that stuff. But then Ted never. When Popov kind of pushes his buttons a bit on it, he always says, "Yeah, they're great players," and you know, what was the bass player's name? Rob Lagrange or something. And he said, yeah, he could, really lay down some tasty bass licks and da da. Like he would just skirt the whole issue kind of thing, eh? But yeah, I don't know. I just remember
Chris
the
Sar's
whole.
complaining about the video freezing up. Chris, that's your Facebook browser. I recommend you refresh. That's how I recommend you solve that problem. And you are next with your number 6.
That would be AC/DC. If you want blood, you got it. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
after I got Back in Black in 1980, I think If You Want Blood was either the second or third AC/DC record I got after. It was either Let There Be Rock or the studio version or If You Want Blood. But that album's just like a locomotive, man.
Yeah.
Like, what can you say? Like, John's right, man. It's Bon Scott. It's all you need to know, and the rhythms, Malcolm and Angus, and the driving drums of Phil Rudd and Cliff Williams. I mean, holy crap, they're just like, never heard a band like that either. Like,
I'll tell you something about AC/DC live. My sister is not an AC/DC fan in any way. She's kind of a musical snob in the sense that she finds their music so simple. But she did highly commend Angus Young when she sees him play and move in that, like, could you play and move at like that at the same time? She's like, that is such a musical thing to
mm,
see. Like he's physically part of the music.
yeah, yeah, like it's crazy, like how good they were, and
Yeah,
just crazy. Great live album though.
absolutely. My number 6 is a second appearance of Marillion on these lists. Same album, La Gazolandra, Thieving Magpie, double live from 1987. Um, Speaking of fragmented bands, this was the most fragmented that Marillion had ever been. Fish left the band, I believe, early '88. This was their last stand. I might even have the date wrong. He might have left like very shortly after this was recorded, but it is a fantastic live album. The first disc is Miscellaneous Greatest Hits, and then the
Hmm.
second disc is all of Misplaced Childhood performed live. Which, think about it, in '87, not too many bands had released complete live versions of an album. Granted, it's a concept album, but still, very few bands had released a complete live edition of a concept album at that point.
No.
Marillion were pioneering at that point. They'd accumulated so much great material.
Hmm.
And Fish's stage banter is also fantastic. I
Is
think
it?
Eric
Yeah.
would agree with me on that. So my number 6 is the Thieving Magpie Marillion. And then we got Holland's number 6, which is Kiss Alive.
Nice.
Now, I wanted to mention something that came up in discussion with Eric. Kiss Alive and Alive 2, are they really live albums?
Mm.
And does it matter?
Mm-mm. Not
Yeah,
at this point of the
exactly.
game.
Exactly. And Meat's number 6 is Kiss Alive.
Nice. That's hilarious.
Yeah, no shit. That brings us back to John T. Snow with number 5.
Mhm.
And you're going to love it. Cheap Trick at Budokan.
Nice.
When I heard Robin Zander's vocals, I was hooked. My gateway drug into the band. I would sing I Want You to Want Me for days after hearing that. And when they go into Surrender right after, I was done. So, yeah,
Beautiful.
there you go. Great John T. Snow number 5.
Great. And guess what? Budokan at 5 for,
No.
yep.
No
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Awesome.
And that,
Okay, well, add on to what John said.
well, I tell you what, just like Snaz, Worldwide Live, Unleashed in the East, Kiss Alive 2, that was the first, I never heard any studio Cheap Trick until I heard Budokan. And the funny thing about Budokan was I was fooled. You know, it's Budokan came out in 79. In 78, I got Kiss Alive 2, right? So when you look at the songwriting credits of Kiss, okay, Simmons sings Simmons songs.
Yeah.
Stanley sings Stanley songs. Chris
Yeah.
sings Chris, you know what, and on and on. And Frehley sang Shock Me. When I bought the Cheap Trick album, most of those songs were written by Rick Nielsen, the geek.
Yeah.
And I thought, holy crap, he's the singer. Well, why are the two cool guys on the front cover and the two geeks? I thought the guy who wrote the song back then actually sang the damn song. That's, so
Well,
I was a silly 12-year-old. I had a lot of schooling to learn.
this it's really interesting you say this because it I was thinking this on the weekend. I'm writing up something right now about all my first Kiss albums,
Mhm.
and my buddy George, who I taped most of my albums from, my next door neighbor, used to say, here's a simple rule of thumb: whoever wrote it sang it.
Mm.
But on Kiss Alive, Parasite, Frehley.
Yeah.
So I thought that was Ace Frehley singing Parasite,
Well,
at
there
least
you
on the
go.
chorus. I thought that was him on the chorus, at least. I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, where are we? Sorry, I've lost track. That was
We're on
you.
five. We're on number five. Yeah.
My number five is the very first appearance of this band. I had Maiden Japan for Deep
Ooh.
Purple, but I changed my mind.
Nope.
I had to be honest with myself. And there's a Deep Purple live album I like better. And you're going to shit your pants because it's Concerto for Group and Orchestra.
Wow.
I like the concerto.
Okay.
The the sound at the Royal Albert Hall was incredible. I
Hmm.
love hearing every pin drop and every breath, and you can. Um, Now, I should clarify this. The original edition of Concerto for Group and Orchestra that came out on vinyl, I believe it was just the concerto. It didn't have um, uh, Child in Time. It didn't have Hard Road, Ring That Neck, and it didn't have Hush. But the CD edition did, and that's what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the CD edition that had Hush, that had Hard Road, and
Hmm.
had Child in Time. I personally feel that live version of Child in Time, which was one of the first times it was ever performed, I think it's absolutely one of the best versions of Child in Time. This is going to conflict with Meat when we get to his Deep Purple. Spoiler alert. But I feel very strongly that I really had to put the Concerto for Group and Orchestra there as my Deep Purple live album. It just means a lot to me. It was one of my first Purples as well when I
Okay.
started collecting them. So
Right.
there you go. For an somewhat unorthodox number five, it's Deep Purple Concerto for Group and Orchestra.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is was John Lord still alive when that was done?
Oh, this is back in 1970,
Oh,
69.
okay. Oh, see.
This is
Yeah.
when Ian Gillan joined the band. I'm
Holy
not
man.
talking about, you're thinking of the Live at Royal Albert Hall from 1999,
Yeah. Yeah. Like
which was a revival. It was a
okay.
20th, or 1999. That's what, 30
30,
years?
30 years. Yeah.
Okay, so here's a story for you. John Lord lost the score to the concerto.
Okay.
And this, I believe it was a Belgian composer slash fan, approached John Lord and says, I'm recreating the concerto by ear and by watching the video, because it was filmed. That was a video.
Okay.
They filmed that. By watching the video and listening to the album on headphones, he recreated the score. And that's how they managed. And John Lord, all he had to do was fill in the blanks,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
that's
like
how they managed
crazy.
to recreate that for the Royal Albert Hall shows in 1999, which featured Ronnie James Dio,
Hmm.
all kinds of. I won't get into all the guests, but anyway, yeah, that clarifies that. My choice is the 1969 recording. Ian Gillan had just joined the band. He wrote the lyrics for the Concerto Group and Orchestra like that day at lunch.
Nice. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
Yeah,
if we were to pick favorite live Deep Purple albums, I'd be going with the Perfect Strangers live one.
so good.
It's like
Um,
I just love that album and I love that era of Purple. That's my discovery point, right? That's
that was
where,
'84.
yeah, that was Perfect Strangers was the first Deep Purple album I ever bought because they were
Yeah,
resurrected that year when they all got back together and
yeah. And then
I
they
heard
immediately began fighting after that album.
it's too bad, yeah, but man, that
They're just
live one,
Ian Gillan and Richie Blackmore just have incompatible personalities,
yeah.
and you see that a lot in music.
Well, it's
I believe
Roth
that
and
David Lee Roth
Van
and
Halen.
Eddie Van Halen are just completely opposite personalities.
Yeah, totally, totally.
So where were we? That was mine, and now we get to Holland
Mhm.
with Thin Lizzy, Live and Dangerous, part of which was recorded in Toronto, and
So they
part of
say.
which was recorded in the studio.
Yeah, yeah.
I almost put this one on my list as well. It was on an early version of my list.
You know, I read,
Uh,
you know, Mikey, I read years ago, and Scott and those guys would probably be able to clarify it more. But I thought I read something about that. Thin Lizzy put Toronto in the credits due to some recording thing and some kind of tax
that could
loophole
be.
thing. Yeah, and
There's
it
a
was
lot of
like,
questions. There's a
yeah,
lot of
so,
questions about that whole album, and there was that sequel album, Still Dangerous, that I reviewed a short while ago too.
okay,
You know,
yeah.
I don't think anybody really knows where these songs are actually from. Harrison Cox says Purple NEC 2002 is a great one too, but that's a DVD, not an album. So awesome, Harrison. Thank you for that. Moving on to Meat. Scorpions Worldwide Live once again.
Nice.
Do you want to add anything about Worldwide Live since you had it on your list?
No, I mean that's just four sides of the Scorpions. Just like they were so yeah
Dynamite.
they were so good then, and then I don't know, for me, like just like 3 years later when they put out Savage Amusement, I was like, man, what happened here?
They definitely got softer.
Yeah, they just
Um, they might have taken too long of a break.
could have been, you know, live they still look like I mean, they were on that Monsters of Rock tour with Van Halen and Metallica and Dokken and Kingdom Come. So I mean, they were still out there playing to thousands of
They
people.
were
But
just as big.
yeah,
A guy I know that I went to high school with, Mark Zimmerman he's actually from Germany originally, and he
nice.
told me that "Believe in Love" was a massive hit in Germany,
Hmm.
massive.
And they had
And Scorpions are the kings of the ballads.
what Lee Aaron on the Rhythm of Love, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, yes. So
I have an interview with Rudolf Schenker in my VHS archives, although I haven't put it onto the computer yet. But I
right.
remember Laurie Brown asked him, "How did that happen?" And I can't remember his answer, but I do remember he says, "Hey, maybe tonight in Toronto we get Lee Aaron on stage to play rhythm of love, rhythm of love, rhythm
Yeah,
of love."
yeah.
And Eric Litwiller says, "Do you know why we like to play California? Do you know why? Because you people really know how to party."
Oh shit, Mikey.
Oh shit! You know what? I got to put Klaus on the list for great stage banter
I was
because
just gonna say that.
what Meat just said there is
Mhm.
timeless.
Yeah. Well, here we are talking about it 35 years later.
Yeah.
Timeless indeed.
I guess we're back to John T. Snow,
Yep.
Deep Purple, Maiden, Japan.
Mm.
He says that he's a Mark III fan primarily. He loves David Coverdale.
Uh-huh.
But even Mark III can't hold a candle to this album. I could listen to Richie Blackmore, John Lord, and Ian Pace play off each other all day. These three are mesmerizing to listen to, and you aren't going to get much better.
Nope. Nope. I mean, yeah, it's amazing how back in the what was it, 73, 74, when Glover and Coverdale got punted and they brought in, or sorry, Gillan and Glover got punted, and then they brought in uh, Coverdale and Glenn
Hughes.
Hughes, and it just seemed like they carried on. And then Then Blackmore left, and then they got Tommy Bolin,
Yeah,
and then
Tommy Bolin, Heroin.
Yeah, did him
Two
in that.
members on heroin.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, and Deep Purple were never a drug band.
No.
Roger Glover said that a lot of people assumed they were because of the song "Smoke on the Water," which
Mm,
has nothing to do with drugs. But
yeah.
they were too schooled as musicians. They were too schooled to be a drug band.
No,
Now,
they.
Ian Gillan
Yeah.
was quite open about some of his drug use, but it sounds to me that his issue was more drinking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can even, and plus, I don't think he really looked after his voice because even that,
Yeah,
I'm not the Purple fanatic like you are, but I even know on that Perfect Strangers audio, kudos to them, they left his voice, but he's a little hoarse in spots,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I think that was the start of the tour, and I'm thinking, holy man, but hey, they could have polished him up in the studio, so good on them for leaving it
yeah.
raw,
No,
you know.
purple integrity. And
Yeah,
Eric Willer says regarding John T. Snow's comments on Made in Japan, he says, "Yep, that's Made in Japan, all right."
yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
now we're to your number four.
Well, that would be some CanCon, buddy. Rush, exit stage left. What do you say?
Second appearance,
Game changer.
double live,
Double live,
1980,
81.
81.
That came, T-Bone got moving pictures in the summer of 81, and that was our first experience with Rush, and we're like, what? Like, listen to these guys. Like, the drums, I mean, you just focus right on the drums, and then especially when Geddy and Alex and Neil stripped down to that basic power trio, like, like in the solo of actually Tom Sawyer and Limelight and Camera Eye, when it's just those three guys with a little bit of maybe even synth in the background, but not overpowering them. When they get into that ripping power trio format, even in the mid 80s when Big Money and stuff, whenever the solos came up, they always went down to that power trio format. And that's what I really loved about them. But I mean, getting that Rush album for Christmas in 81 and hearing YYZ and the Peart drum solo, I mean, that was a game changer. I mean, up till then, I thought Peter Criss was, Peter Criss on the drums. Like I thought, oh, this guy is Peter Criss. And when I seen him live, he went up in his riser and, the pyro. And then Neil Peart in 2.5 minutes on YYZ live just changed it forever and became my all-time favorite drummer. And Rush, too. Never heard the back catalog other than the moving picture stuff on there. Never heard The Spirit of the Radio till then. Never heard The Trees, Closer to the Heart, all that stuff. And it was like, there's like two different bands here, and it worked. Like, that's all I got, man. It's like so good, that record.
I was going to say something about the Peter Criss, but I'll save it for when I get down further on my list. Because I do want to say something about that. So we're on number four.
Yep.
Okay, I forgot that I put this on my list. I thought I deleted it, but apparently I kept it. Unleashed into East.
Attaboy.
I'm glad I kept that. I kind of got that in the middle of a spurt of collecting Priest, and I think for a lot of those tunes, like you always mention the tempos, how they're faster on the live albums, and then you get the studio albums, you'll find them sluggish. So I got this live album before I got maybe everything except for Hellbent for Leather. Hey, we got John Hubner watching, or Hubner. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but we got John Hubner.
Hey, John. Welcome.
Anyway, yeah, so wherever I got that in the order of Priest things, it was still the first time hearing the majority of those songs.
Yeah.
And so Unleashed in the East is basically my introduction to early Priest, and that was my number four.
And that's the thing too, like Halford. I mean, he owns that record. I mean, the first time I ever heard "Run a Wild," when he says that one line in the song about never stumble, never fall.
Yeah.
And then take on all newcomers, and I demand respect. I'm like, yes, sir, you do demand respect. Yes, like yeah. He laid it down vocally. So what he was singing, you believed him, and like even Green Man Alishi at the end when he goes into that whole operatic thing, it's like
that's the definitive version of Green Man Alishi. Yeah. I'll say that.
Yeah, for sure.
Holland, Allman Brothers, Fillmore East, number four. So again, that's one that goes back to John T. Snow. A good pick there, Holland. Yeah. And Meat for his number four. We have Live After Death once again. Nice. Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about that a little bit more later on.
So will
This
I.
brings us to, this brings us to number 3.
Yep.
Scorpions Worldwide Live.
Boom.
The first live album I ever bought with my own money. These guys were huge at this time, and to hear these songs live brought new life to them and was the reason why he went back and started buying their earlier albums, which is basically what you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like once like, that's an impact album in obviously John's life, even my life.
Yeah,
When you hear those versions and you're like, all these songs are so good. Like you want
yeah,
to see what other tracks, like what are the other deeper tracks that they don't even do anymore that you can discover. And
yeah.
that's the fun thing about it. So it's cool. Good pick there, Mr. Snow.
Mr. Kopp, Harrison Kopp says the demand respect line is usually nailed by all. Ripper does it really good on Live in London. I'll take your word for it because I don't remember, but I do like Ripper. I like Ripper. Okay. And Eric says everyone loves the Scorpions. The Scorpions.
Ripper did well with them, but I just never. I checked out after. Basically, I checked out after Turbo. If you
Yeah,
want to be
fair enough.
honest,
Yeah,
you
fair
know,
enough.
I bought Ram It Down, and we know where that one went,
Down
and
all the
then
way,
and then
all
and
the.
then
It went like this. It went.
and then I know Painkiller's a very revered album, but for me, it was just Priest trying too hard to be something to me, Priest is point of entry, Scream for Vengeance, British Steel, Defenders, Turbo,
Yeah.
Unleashed. That's my deal. So
Where are we now?
I think it's me, right?
I think so.
Number 3,
Yes.
that would be Kiss Alive.
Ah, glad to
Yeah,
hear it.
yeah, I had to go Kiss Alive. I mean, I think in the chronicle of all my history, Kiss Alive was either, I can't remember. Kiss Alive 2 was my first purchase, and I think it was either Kiss Alive or Double Platinum was because I got both those albums in later half of '78, and who can't forget Strutter '78?
Yeah, true, true.
But Kiss
I
Alive, I
played that
mean,
song a couple times this week, actually.
but Kiss Alive too. I mean, or sorry, Kiss Alive. I mean, yes, if that's touched up in the studio, which if you read any of their authorized books, they're kind of saying, yeah, kind of, sorta, da 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 da. Kudos to Peter Criss because supposedly most of his
Yeah,
drums were live.
all the
So
drums are live.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so at least they had the live beat to
yeah.
build. I read something like 65% of it's studio,
And
including
double.
Paul's raps.
Oh yeah, well totally. I mean, the worst Paul Stanley raps on a live record are the Kiss Alive 3 ones. The good, the
Oh, they're
bad,
so
the
terrible.
ugly. It's like, what the hell are
Oh,
you
that is
talking
so
about?
terrible.
It's
And
like,
also the other one, the vinyl only one, Take It Off. How many of you people like to
yeah,
get naked? Shut
yeah,
the fuck up.
yeah. And there's Stanley saying that in 1992.
Yeah,
Hard sell, guy. Hard
yeah,
sell.
hard sell guy. My number 3, Live After Death, Iron Maiden.
Boom.
Um,
Nice,
can't beat the
nice.
packaging.
Nope.
The beauty of that album, it was 100 minutes.
Yep.
The beauty of that album was that you could spend as much time as the album is playing to go through the booklet with all the photos and the liner notes. I believe Martin Birch wrote some extensive liner notes
Hmm.
for that album, but it was just a great album, and it was my initial exposure to a lot of those Diano songs.
Hmm.
Um, I heard probably I heard the Maiden Japan version of Running Free after the Live After Death, and I was
Yeah.
kind of surprised at how the two singers approached it differently.
Hmm.
Dickinson's obviously "I'm running free," yeah, whereas Deano's more of like "I'm running free,"
Yeah.
you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
The
Yeah.
punkish vocal. Yeah.
We got comments from Meat. The inner picture of a filled Cobo Hall was mesmerizing to look at as a kid, like another world you weren't old enough to go to. Gives
Yeah.
good depth to the arena experience in one picture.
Yeah.
And John T. Snow says the animalized bootleg that he has, Paul, is totally awful.
Yeah. Oh, that's 80s Paul too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess he took it right into the 90s.
I love the opening rap to Love Gun on Animalize, and I know that Scott Carson and I both share that sentiment. That's the one where he goes to the doctor's office to get
Oh
himself checked
shit.
out,
Yeah.
and the nurse says, "Why don't we start this examination just a little early?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I swear to God, man, I thought that was the funniest thing at that time, and I kind of still do.
Yeah.
Holin's number 3 is "If You Want Blood, You Got It."
Nice.
AC/DC with its what is that, its third appearance now?
I think so. I had it. John had it. And did Uncle Meat have it?
Meat doesn't have it.
No. So I guess 3.
Um, yeah, well, I don't know what else we can add about that one. It's Bon Scott, like John T. Snow said, it's Bon Scott. This leads us to Meat with, and you know what? I wanted to put Zappa on my list, but the truth is I just don't know any of the albums intimately enough. And he's got Roxy and Elsewhere as his number 3. I will let him comment on that if he likes, but I would assume that as far as live Zappa goes, that would be a pinnacle of sorts. I know most of his albums are essentially recorded live anyway, so it's kind of hard to pick, but I'm glad to see Frank Zappa on these lists.
I heard Zappa live in
You saw?
concert. Well, he was the intro music to the Crew show for Dr. Feelgood with his tune
Oh,
Crude Slut. And then the Crew came on. I remember hearing it going, that intro song sounds like Frank Zappa. Me and T-Bone were scratching our heads because we're not Zappa guys. We only knew Zappa by Steve Vai being was Frank Zappa and
sure,
Steve
sure.
Vai or Frank Zappa having these oddball tunes, but you could just hear it. You're just a crude slut. And then a big blast of pyro went off, and then the Crew started their show. It was like, yeah,
That's funny.
that was a good. Well, there we go. 30 years later, I still remember that intro. So yeah.
So here's Meat's comment about that album, 1974. It's all new songs performed live, but a studio album. Songs are just killer.
Nice.
So that's what he says.
Hey, good on him, man.
Which brings us back to John T. Snow, who has an extensive write-up about this album.
Nice. Let's hear it.
David Bowie,
Ooh.
Cracked Actor, live in Los Angeles, 1974. So there's another two 1974 albums in a row. At times, the album's ambiance felt like a small and intimate jazz club. The saxophone, piano, and jazz guitar sound enriched. The songs and added texture bring a new life to them. And check out the musicians. Damn! Earl Slick, guitar. Carlos Alomar, guitar. He has played on more Bowie albums than any other musician. Mike Garson, piano mellotron. David Sanborn, alto sax and flute. Pablo Rosario, conga. Doug Rauch, bass, played with Carlos Santana. Greg Errico, drums, played drums for Sly and the Family Stone. Backing vocals, Warren Peace, Anthony Hinton, Luther Vandross, Ava Cherry, Diane Sumler, and Robin Clark. Okay, so that's John T. Snow's info dump on David Bowie, Cracked Actor, live in Los Angeles, 1974. His number 2. Over to you.
Well, just to add, like Bowie, he always brought in like stellar A talent. I mean,
Wild T.
well, Wild T and Stevie Ray Vaughan,
Yeah.
and
M. Briner.
yeah, so yeah, CanCon, and it's just like he obviously whoever it was, either it was him or whoever was working in his organization had a good year for picking out talent and throwing them on stage with them. So yeah, that list basically says it all,
Yeah.
So good on Mr. Snow again.
He
So
knows lots.
Oh, he does. That's why he's a revered talent among the
Yeah.
blog society.
100%.
Like yourself, my friend. My number 2 is Live After Death.
Ah.
85 double gatefold. I was 18. It was all about packaging. I mean, Kiss Alive 2 started the packaging for me, right? So I expected that. And when I bought a live album and it didn't have that, it was like, even no matter how good the vinyl or record was, it was like, oh man, couldn't they just done a little bit more? But Maiden, I mean, they delivered, like you said, the booklet. Martin Birch wrote all this recording stuff. You knew how much booze they drank, how many picks they used, how many strings they broke, how many
Yeah.
drumsticks. I mean, it was crazy. And Ross Halfin just did 100,000 pictures in there. I mean,
Yeah.
I would just stare at it. Even when my sister and her boyfriend bought me the reissue for my 50th, it just took me right back to 1985, where I was looking at those pictures again and looking at Adrian
You
Smith
know,
all
I
burnt
don't know
out.
about the vinyl. I don't know about the vinyl, but when they did the deluxe 2 CD edition in around 98-ish,
Mm-hmm.
it was a completely new set of photos that I'd never seen before.
Oh, no
Similar
kidding.
layout, but it was all photos I'd never seen before. So
Well, that's Maiden.
mind-blowing. Oh, we have James McCurry. Hello! Jim Dead. Hello, James McCurry.
Bloody hell.
Oh, no!
Just stretch.
My number 2,
Mm-hmm.
and you can probably predict where I'm going with this, but my number 2 is Kiss Alive 2.
Boom. Nice.
I love it.
Yeah.
It sounds even more doctored in the studio than any of their other live albums. Honestly, it does.
Oh, it totally does. Yeah. I mean, well, what didn't they take the Super Bowl crowd from '77
Yeah.
and put it in as the audience? And Tomorrow and Tonight was a sound check song. They
I
slapped the
believe Hard
audience
Luck
on it.
Woman was as
And
well.
Hard Luck Woman, yeah, the last two on side two actually.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
of course,
like,
Beth has always just been a studio recording with Peter.
yeah,
And then Peter sings it, and then he throws the roses into the audience. Like,
yeah.
so corny. But hey, they knew what they were doing.
They knew what they were doing, and I mean, he was still, the last time I seen Kiss in 2003 with him on the drum stool still, he did that exact same move. But after he threw the roses out, he gave you an old hike up with his leather pants, you know, to cover that little bit of weight gain, you know.
I think Eric Singer throws the roses in the audience too.
That's
You know what? I could swear maybe someone might be able to correct me on this, but I think when they do Beth with Eric Singer, he pretends to be playing piano.
man.
I really hope that's not true.
Yeah, you know what? That just sucks ass. Holy shit! What's the matter with those guys? Frick, I love them to death, and then they do stupid shit like that. God, you got me going off the rails now.
Yeah. So Holin's number 2 is the second appearance of Cheap Trick at Budokan.
Nice.
You want to say another few words about at Budokan?
No, I mean, it was just, it was like an impact record. I mean, anything that Cheap Trick stuck
Eric
out.
says that the thing about Eric Singer is true. Okay, go on.
Kill Buzz. Yeah, I mean, that's just, what do you say, fake singer piano?
Yeah, miming. Oh, so bad. Why can't he just sit on a stool and sing it?
Why don't they just eliminate it? Because it's not even his
Or
tune,
that.
man. Like,
Yeah.
it's a Peter Criss thing. You know what? We're going off track here, but
Yep.
I never understood. I know it was to piss off Peter Criss, but I never understood. You know where I'm going with this. Why they got Eric Carr to? I mean, Eric Carr. They basically put a pistol to his head probably at that point and said.
He was desperate to have a lead vocal.
And they said, "You want a lead vocal? Well, redo Beth." And he's like, "Peter Criss is the guy who actually doesn't mind me now, and here I am doing his tune. Come on." Like, I remember buying Smashes and Thrashes, and I skipped it. I think I listened to it once.
Never
and I
sat
thought,
well with me.
I
remember
dirty ball.
Back in the summer of '89. There's a reason I remember it well. No. Summer of 1990. Sorry, no, summer of 1990.
Right.
My buddy Bob and I were both dating these two girls. They were friends, and then Bob and I were friends, and we met them at Bob's trailer. Anyway, we were all sitting in the trailer, and they wanted to play a tape, so they put this tape on. Like they said, "Oh, we got some Kiss on this tape."
Mm-hmm.
So like, oh, cool, play it. And Beth comes on, and Bob's like, "Which version is it? Hope it's Peter." Oh, fuck, it's Eric. And they could not understand why we didn't like Beth.
No.
It's like, it's Kiss. You guys like Kiss. And it's like, you don't understand. It's Eric. It's
You know
not
what?
Peter.
You know, why didn't they throw him a bone at that point? Like, remember on the Animal, speaking of Animalize, the live video, he didn't even
Yeah,
sing like Young and Wasted.
Young and Wasted and Black Diamond.
Yeah, like, why didn't they just, Black Diamond would have sat better, but Beth is like the personal song for Peter's wife at the time, yada,
Yeah.
yada. And those guys, I mean,
Eric
it's,
Litwiller says, "Stop playing Beth," and you know what that's a reference to?
what do you say? Sorry?
Stop playing Beth,
Yeah.
and you know what that's a reference to? Where I drove around in the car blasting Beth to wake him up.
Yeah, yeah. You're lucky you're still able to talk.
Yeah,
He wouldn't
I'm
try
gonna get to his
strangling you.
number two.
Sure,
His
man.
number two is Rush, Exit Stage Left.
Great pick, man.
Third appearance of that album. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Third appearance, I think.
Third, yeah, yeah. Can
Nothing
you
more to
say?
add.
No.
That's the problem when we get down on these lists is there's nothing more to add. So this
Well,
brings us to number one. We're on the last round. Number one,
ding ding.
John T. Snow, Kiss Alive.
Mm.
Is this one any surprise? It's no shock. Shock me! Since they are my favorite band. Now, I know that this isn't live, but who the hell cares? Which is what we've been saying all this time. It has all the fire, the energy, and the wow of a live album, and it broke the band, as in breaking their career wide open.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get my full input on it, just wait a few weeks for the review in the Kiss Review series. Yes, shameless plug. Well, we're going to plug them anyway. TooLoudTooOldMusic.com. John T.
Absolutely.
Snow is the webmaster, and he is currently 2 reviews in to his massive 50 review Kiss series. He has done Wicked Lester, and he has done the first album, Kiss.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just getting started. He has 48 more reviews to go. So everybody who loves Kiss, go to John T. Snow, TooLoudTooOldMusic.com and lick it up.
Yeah, and the thing, yeah. I'm not even gonna go there with that. Yeah. All I gotta say is just read the reviews, man.
Yep.
Attaboy,
Yep.
great pick, John. Great pick.
Yep.
Now, Mikey, quiz time.
Okay.
You've been following my blog since day one. What's my number one all-time favorite live album?
Let me think. Rattlesnake Shake. A little bit of Aerosmith. Live Bootleg.
Baby. That is the all-time, mine and T-Bone's all-time favorite live album.
And it almost made my list. It almost made my list.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, they're so slopped up and on got every barbiturate possible at that time, and yet it's so authentic. I mean, they made it like a bootleg record, I guess, to go against the bootleggers, because if you know, side 4 has a couple of tracks from like 73 from when they played this place called, like, I think it was Paul's
Mother
Mall.
Popcorn is one of my favorite songs on that album.
And Ain't Got You. Yeah.
Yeah, Ain't Got You.
Yeah, and then Draw the Line's not even listed on the record yet. It's played right before. Yeah.
And that's a killer version of it, too.
Oh, every song's killer on there. I mean, T-Bone's favorite all-time Smith tune on there, one of them is Chip Away the Stone.
Yeah, mine too. I had an entire post just about Chip Away the Stone.
Yeah. And so, like, that's, like, there we go again. Double gatefold. You know, and they put on the record sleeves, they put where the songs were recorded and a little bit of facts and some pictures and photos, and yeah, it's just such a killer record. I mean, I still love it to this day. When I started buying vinyl, I went on the massive hunt for it, and I looked for it. I didn't want to go Discogs because I thought, okay, you know, I eventually had to cave and get it off Discogs because I finally wanted to get it. And I looked for it high and low and all the places here in Thunder Bay, and I finally got on Discogs. And then one day I went hunting for some records here in Thunder Bay, and what was sitting there in the bins? Live Bootleg.
Oh.
So I bought it and I gave it to T-Bone because he had to get a copy of that, along with Done with Mirrors. But
Trevor T. Rev always said, and this is so true, if you want something and come into the store used, all you have to do is go out and buy it new yourself, and it's going to come in used within a week. And it happened to him, and it happened to me multiple times, and it obviously happened to you in a sense.
Yeah. So
we have some more comments here. John T. Snow says, thanks for the free advertising. James McCurry regarding Live Bootleg says, yes!
Yes!
John T. Snow says it almost made his list too. And James McCurry adds that would be in his top 5, man. Outstanding.
It's yeah, they're just firing on all cylinders. I mean, they're kind of a funny band with actually two of my favorite Aerosmith albums, live live bootleg and Done with Mirrors. They don't really even want to talk about them. They
It's
don't even
strange.
really they don't even really acknowledge them. I mean, like the story of the time when we were fortunate enough to have a few minutes chatting with Joe Perry, and I told
Yeah.
him to his face, I said, thanks for this tour for bringing Let the Music Do the Talking back. And he goes, you like that song? And I said, I love that album. And he said nothing. And I thought, that's the greatest answer ever. Nothing. He didn't say nothing. And I was like, I kind of figured. I thought, he just said, I don't know if he didn't hear me or what, but I just like it that way that he just said nothing.
Said nothing. It's a better
And then,
story that way.
and then
It's a story that way.
it just ramped up that much more on my all-time favorite studio Aerosmith records. After that, no comment. I thought, yeah, man, but that's just
Well,
where
my
that.
number 1 and number 2 Aerosmith songs are Chip Away the Stone and Let the Music Do the Talking. So
And I know you
there you go.
said in the past that Done with Mirrors to you sounds unfinished, and I get that. But
Unpolished maybe might be the better
oh, is
word.
that word? Yeah. So, but
Maybe. I'm like, no, that is what I said. I did say unfinished, but maybe unpolished would be a better word.
yeah, but those two records. It's funny. Like two of my favorite Aerosmith albums. They're the ones they don't really talk about. So
Yeah.
whatever. But
Oh
hey,
well,
that's
they're your niche albums.
yeah. Well,
Um,
totally. I mean, I grew up with that stuff. So, and I still listen to it. So what does that tell you?
yeah.
Number one,
John T.
baby.
Snow. John T. Snow says "Done with Mirrors" is one of his favorite Arrow albums. There you
Well,
go.
attaboy, John T. You know what I'm
He
talking
would know.
about.
John
Yeah,
T. knows.
he knows.
My number 1. We've talked about this album a few times now. Is "Kiss Alive." If I had "Kiss Alive 2" as my number 2, I was obviously going to put "Kiss Alive" as my number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be retelling the story of how I got this album. I told it in part 3 of Record Store Tales, my first Kiss, but I'm retelling it and continuing on from that point of buying all the Kiss albums. Uh, Kiss Alive I got in that very first day when I got Hotter Than Hell,
Mm-hmm.
and I traded Hotter Than Hell away immediately to get other stuff. I was entrepreneurial, and I kept Kiss Alive, and I played it, and I played it, and I played it, and I probably wrecked it. Excuse me.
Well, we all
Um,
did.
I've gone through a few copies of Kiss Alive. I've had what 3 maybe CD copies,
Mm-hmm.
2 vinyl copies. So I've got the original, my original that I got in that trade, and a reissue.
Okay.
Kiss Alive, man. We can't add anything else about Kiss Alive. There's just nothing else to add.
No, I
Me
think.
and John P. Snow had the same number 1, so I know I'm right.
Well, I'm number 3, so I'm close to being right. But
You're
nothing,
close to being right.
nothing's ever gonna top live bootleg off that number 1 perch, man. I'll go to my
Yeah.
grave saying live bootleg is the best live album ever. So good.
Poland has as his number 1 a band that has not yet appeared, but almost made my list. Live at Leeds, The Who.
Funny you say that. I told my brother I was coming on here to do this, and my brother said all-time best live album, The Who live at Leeds. He
Yeah.
goes, that's my list, and I'm like, yeah,
Well, Poland agrees.
yeah,
Um, my Live at Leeds is the expanded version,
no doubt.
which I prefer because it has a killer version of A Quick One While He's Away.
Mhm.
And it's the same version that was used in the soundtrack to the movie Rushmore back in 1998-99. And if you ever hear that version of A Quick One While He's Away, it is the ultimate version. So that's what I got to say about Live at Leeds.
It's even better than the version that was on The Kids Are All Right
It's
soundtrack.
better.
Yeah,
It's better.
no,
Yeah,
no
I've
kidding.
got both, and it's better.
No
Yeah.
kidding. I'll take your word for
I
it,
guess
brother.
this is it. This is the end.
This is the end. This was a ton of
Uncle
fun, man.
Uncle Meat with his favorite album, I believe, is I don't want to say it's his favorite album of all time, but he might have told me that it is Maiden Japan, Purple. I remember seeing that album for sale in Columbia House magazine,
Wow.
and I don't know if you remember this, but they used to charge more for albums that were quote unquote double length.
Of
So
course.
something like Made in Japan counted as a double length album. I think it counted as two selections, that kind of thing. But I was always intimidated by this double length album that only had 7 songs on it.
Yeah, what was just one side like all keyboard and drum solo on that thing?
I think one side of it is just
That's just crazy.
lazy or something like that. Like
Yeah.
there's one entire side that's just lazy.
Yeah, that's just nuts. Like that they just would
Yeah.
go off like that. Like
But there's
unbelievable.
Zeppelin albums like that too.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Oh, we got a big comment from Meat. Just for the guitar solo in Child in Time, it had to be number one. But it's a rock masterpiece. Sir Martin fucking Birch makes it insane that Dream Theater actually covered this live album. Yes, they cover this live album. And yeah, I did know that, and I would like to buy Dream Theater's version of Made in Japan. I have Dream Theater's version of The Number of the Beast and Master of Puppets, but I do not have their version of Made in Japan.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really. I think I had it on. I never had it on record. I think I might have had it taped when I was in high school on cassette. So, you know, when the cassette tapes were making the rounds, I remember getting around that time, I think, Malmsteen's Trilogy album, the one where he's holding his
The
strat
Dragon.
and the dragon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
that one.
three-headed dragon,
Yeah,
because it's a trilogy.
because the guy at school is saying, "Oh, you got to hear this record. He's actually got a singer singing the songs," and I'm like, I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
Jeff Bowles.
And then, because I just thought, is this just going to be a bunch of, you know? And I'm like, eh. But I
It
heard it.
had a
It wasn't.
lot of that.
Yeah, and it wasn't that bad. But I liked that
Well,
album
there's
he
some
did
good
after.
songs in that, like "The Queen is in Love."
Wasn't Liar on that one?
Liar. Yep.
Yeah, I like that one. That one, and the single.
You
You
don't
don't.
remember, I'll never
Yeah,
forget.
yeah, that was pretty good. But
Uncle Meat says that the mule on Made in Japan is one whole side. And John
ah,
T. Snow says Space Truckin' is about 20 minutes and the only song on side 4.
well, there
So when
you
you think
go.
about it, if there's 7 songs and 4 sides, you can do the math there. There's got to be a couple of sides that are just one song.
Well, no wonder Ian Gillan was getting plastered with booze.
Yeah.
What's a guy to do?
Well, I believe he said that he used to meet some groupies backstage during some of the extended solos.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. I'm
I'm
sure
sure
he
he did.
did. Strange kind of woman.
Yeah. I can't believe we did this.
This was a ton
That
of
was an
fun.
hour and a half.
Must see TV, folks.
I was going to do some more after this. I was going to do some unboxings, but I think I'm just going to save that for tomorrow if I go live tomorrow. Or it wasn't
Yeah,
anything special anyway. It was just some action figures.
yeah, but
So
still,
I think
man,
I think I think we can call this a show that we have completed.
we can, man. Thanks for having me
That's
on, brother.
Oh, dude, this was so much fun. We're going to do this
Yeah,
again. We'll,
absolutely.
we'll plug your site before you go.
That's all good, man. It's all good. You guys
You
can
have
find
to.
me.
It's a requirement. You're not allowed to leave.
You can find my scribbles and notes at Thunder Bay Arena Rock WordPress or superdekes.com WordPress or however. I don't even know what it is, man. Just just
What did I
find
call it? Like
Mikey.
stick it in your arena rock or whatever I called it.
You know what? Anybody's interested, ask Mikey.
I think if you Google Super Deeks, you'll probably find it. I think that's generally how you'll find it.
Yeah. And one more quick note, folks out there, is Mikey's the guy who got me blogging because I never even knew blogs existed until I was
Yeah,
Googling Helix, and I thought, who's this guy in Kitchener who interviewed Brian Vollmer? And then
that's true. That was right when I did that interview.
that was like 2012, I think, or
Yep.
something like that. And then I kind of ignored the Vollmer interview because I thought this guy is whacked. He's like reviewed like 75 Kiss albums. Who the fuck does that? Mike Ladano.
And
And then from
I'd
there,
probably done the Maidens at that point
and I
too.
was like, this is nuts. This is like an actual fan. And I thought, you know what? These are the kind of guys I got to follow because they're buying music. So if they say it sucks, it's a little more face value than a writer getting it free and saying
Yeah.
it's the best album ever. This is a fanboy who bought it and saying, proceed with caution or buyer beware or something. And then it gives you a
Yeah.
heads up and you have to make that call on your own. But yeah, I got you to blame for all this mess.
Well, it's a combination of myself and Aaron Stewart and
Yeah,
Scott Carson, the heavy
yeah,
metal overlord,
yeah,
and James McCurry
yeah.
and John T. Snow and new guys like Harrison Kopp. And
Mhm.
you built this, as Aaron's word is, community.
Community.
And
Well,
it's true.
that's even the thing. A guy that's been following our blogs, his name's Andrew, and he writes a blog, and he's out in Portland, and he see me raving about Sloan, and he went and seen Sloan when they went to Portland. Never even knew Sloan existed. You know, that stuff's cool. And another guy I follow out of Nashville, his name's Max, and he does a lot of writing pop singles. And so I talked about Sloan, and he checked them out, and he said, "Wow, these guys are fantastic." And he goes, "Damn it, they played like Nashville like 3 months ago. I had no idea. Damn it." So it's kind of neat that, like you say, community, it expands,
Yeah.
people latch on, people discover your site, my
It
site,
grows
John's,
organically.
yeah, and that's the way it
James
should be.
McCurry
So
says community. Eric Litwiller says seek the deek. John T. Snow says this was a blast, which it
that,
was.
that's almost
Which it
T-shirt
was.
worthy, meat. I'll cut you in on the percentage if that goes to Prince. Seek the Deek.
Seek the deek. You know what? I want to talk about one more thing before you go,
Sure, man.
because I think it's pretty cool. Crocs in Thunder
Yeah,
Bay,
yeah,
rock club in Thunder Bay. That's
yeah.
been what, like 30-year history or 40-year history. They're doing a
Uh,
documentary film about this.
You know what? Yeah, you know what? Frank Lafredo, he's been booking shows forever. The first time I ever really kind of somewhat met Frank was he was the first guy to bring for all the CanCon out there. He was the first guy to bring a lot of bands through Thunder Bay because, as Todd Kearns said on stage,
From Age of Electric.
Age Electric said, Thunder Bay is East meets West and West meets
Yeah,
East. Like this is the stop. You have to stop here, at least for gas.
yeah,
So
$100%.
Frank was the first guy to bring bands like the Hip to town, Tragically Hip. He brought Rancid to Crocs. He brought the Tea Party. Every Canadian act, Big Sugar. First time through the country, Frank was like ground zero with the bookings, and it's good on. I think her name's Kristen Kowalski, and she put the documentary together, and it looks pretty damn impressive. And I know you've been following it, and it's getting a premiere at the Docs, a documentary or a film festival out in I think Calgary.
That's
So
awesome. Whenever
yeah,
whenever film festivals resume.
and he's made these relationships with bands. I mean, Sloan comes here. He's brought Frank's brought in John Five. I know me and Frank have talked about one of our favorite shows that played to 75 people, which was a crime, was King's X.
Oh,
I mean,
75 people.
yeah, they were here on their, what's the pronunciation of the album? Ogre Tones? Is that what it's called?
Overtone.
Ogre Tones. They were here on that, and that is easily in my top three all-time shows. But those guys didn't give a shit. They just played their 90-minute set, and I got my ears blown out by Doug Pinnick's bass, and yeah, like
12
Frank's,
strings of bass.
yeah, and I mean that guy is like he's seen it all. Like he's survived it all. I
Yeah,
mean through genres and changes, and I try to keep in touch with him with all this COVID stuff, and
yeah,
I hope he can kind of pull through. He tells me, he says, "Yeah, man, I'm doing good and things are good," and he's pretty
good.
focused on this documentary out there. So thanks for that. I'm glad you
It'll
really
help.
brought
It'll
that
help
up.
when things reopen. It'll definitely
Well,
help.
yeah, and by all means, I mean we should actually get him on here sometime and do some
Well,
because
oh, that would be
you know
great.
what he'd have the ultimate freaking stories, man.
I
So
would. Okay,
yeah,
let's put a pin in that. I got a
you
bunch of
better.
comments here. Bunch of comments. James McCurry says, "Community is the thing he loves most about blogging. You guys rock." Eric Litwiller says that Sloan like to polish knobs, but some like their knobs polished by Sloan. Eric Litwiller says Harvey Danger. I don't know where that comes from. and Crazy saw them at the classic El Macombo. I don't know who. Maybe Harvey Danger he saw at the classic El Macombo. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
So,
don't know.
but I guess you could say that Crocs is Thunder Bay's El Macambo.
Yeah, because it really is like you
Yeah.
cannot get out west without going through Thunder Bay, really.
No, I mean
Not unless you want to go through the messy traveling across two borders.
like I think Frank and Frank would be the one to tell the story, but I remember him telling me, and I hope I get it right, that the first time he had the tragically hip here was in February of '87 or '88. I can't remember when they were here. Anyways, they drove straight through from New York City to Thunder Bay,
No.
and this was before, right when their EP was out, with Highway Girl
Yeah.
and Last American Exit. That's all they had out. They weren't even signed to a deal, and the first thing he said was, they said, "We're hungry. Can you make us something?" And he made them like a ton of grilled cheese sandwiches.
Oh, sweet. Can't believe
Yeah,
he fed Gord Downey a grilled cheese sandwich.
that was before.
Meat's clarifying his El Macombo. King's X, he saw at the El
Ah,
Macombo. Dimebag Daryl was standing next to him in the audience. Dimebag.
time
Holy
bag.
crap.
Yeah, no kidding.
Wow.
So yeah, Frank he'd be yeah, he'd be good. I'll have to shoot him a message and figure something out, because
Yeah.
especially when he gets
You know,
closer to the plug in his documentary, he would definitely come on you and
if
talk.
this like I know you can stream Zoom, but I think you have to pay for Zoom to do that.
Mm.
But shit, I might have to start doing that if this is going to continue, because it would be nice to have you and Eric and John T all at the same time talking. I think I've lost your audio. I've lost your audio. We have silence. Radio silence. Well, we were going to call it a night anyway. We were going to end the show now anyway. So I can't hear him. I think he can hear me. Um, but I'll wrap it up now. Thank you so much for watching. We got LeBrain here and we got Superdekes there. And this was an absolute there. Yeah, I think he can hear me. This was an absolute blast, and lost audio, says Derek. Okay. Um, hey, I'm glad it lasted till the end of the list. Thank you so much. You guys take care, and I'll be back at some point. Don't know when. Don't know how. Don't know when.